There we go. Okay, we're excited because we now are going to hear from another presenter. This is Donna Gray. Donna Gray is a library coordinator for the city of New York, for New York City Public Schools, and she'll tell you a little bit more about herself and also all the great work that she does in the city. So I want everyone to welcome Donna Gray, and I'm going to give you hosting. There we go. All right. Can you access the hosting options there? Okay, let's try this again. All right. So Donna. There we go. All right, Donna, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. I think I accidentally put you down the panelist. I'm so sorry. My bad. Okay, so you are now a host.
Great.
And you can try it now.
Okay.
All right.
Got it.
All right, there you go.
Thank you, Casey. Let's see. I'm gonna do share. Perfect. Give me 1 second to get myself in order. Bum, bum, bum. All right, so we're gonna get started, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donna Gray, and I am a school library coordinator for New York City Public Schools. And I'd like to see in the chat where you're from, or just maybe one thing you want to learn from today's session.
Okay, we are having problems with our chat right now. So
okay, perfect. We can move.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Let's see, next slide. So diversity and social emotional learning. SEL in the library isn't new. And the ideas that I'm going to present were built on the foundation and learning attained before and after the pandemic. And what I think is a bit nuanced in my approach is having the point of view and the lens for diversity on social emotional learning resources and books. I think for a long time, a lot of libraries just wanted to have the books, whatever they were, in the library and available. And this is a great time to say, okay, now that we have the books, how can we curate better collections? How can we curate collections that really show the diversity of our students? And we have the power to do that. So just thinking about our place in the library and saying, if we don't teach SEL, who are we leaving to teach it? And consider for a moment and maybe jot down for yourself, where are you on this wheel of privilege? And not only where are you, but how can you help students and help your school library become a welcoming space by acknowledging where you are and helping students acknowledge where they are as well. And I think that's a really important part, that this is a time for librarians to really take the lead. We always do, but to take the lead and say that this is important to us and our students are important to us as well. And give me 1 second, let me see. This slide is important to me because I think a lot of your admin might say there's no connection with SEL and academics. And this quote reads, major domains of human development, social, emotional, cognitive, linguistic, academic, are deeply intertwined in the brain and in behavior, and are all central to learning. And I think the important part for me is realizing that our students are better with SEL and also with SEL or social immersion learning tools that affirm who they are in the space. And I was going to have you write in the chat about this, but I think one, there's a QR code on the screen, and that gets you to the presenter notes. And two, I think whether we can write it or not, looking at, once you open the notes up, because I put copies of this there, looking at the personal and social wheel, the wondering I have, and for you to think about on your own, is where would you be right now? How would you feel about your school experience if a teacher had asked these questions? If you had the conversation or you were able to even reflect on who you were and how you were in the world. So just think about seeing students for who they are and accepting them wholly as being an important part of the whole entire learning process. There's a great book that I would have in an SEL collection, and the title is Your Name is a Song. And throughout the book, the little girl people are having issues saying her name. Sometimes it's easier just to give a nickname instead. And I think this is important. When I had my own classroom, now I'm the coordinator for the Bronx, but I think when I had my own classroom, when I had my own library, I greeted my students. If I didn't know their names, I had a digital sign-in sheet. So I would look at the sign-in sheet as they were typing and see who was who in the room. And I would say hello to them by name. And there's some students that really do not get addressed in a pleasant or affirming way, or maybe they just need more. Like, what student wouldn't want to be known by everyone in their school? So saying their names as they come into the classroom, acknowledging that some names are hard, and it might take me some time to say your name correctly, but I'm going to try to do it properly. And I think what I really like is Teaching Books has a website they have a part of the website that will help you pronounce the author's names. And I think this is a great example and a great way to model to your students how to actually honor someone by saying their name. So I'm going to play this. Not sure.
Hi, my name is Tomi Adiemi. An easy way to remember that is to point to your toe and then point to yourself, which I know that's probably weird for you, but for me, that's how I do it. So I always point to my toe and I point to myself so that people know it's toe as in P-O-E and me as in M-E. And for my last name, it's exactly how it's spelled. But to break it down, add A-D-D-E and then Yemi. So Tomi Adiemi.
So that right there, I think, is a great way to start practicing what we preach. We get to hear the author's name, and if you didn't know it before or how she said it, you have her say it herself. So Teaching Books offers this for free, and I think it's a really cool resource. And they have like a lot more, but just besides pronouncing authors' names. But I think this is a really great way to help students realize that their name is a song, and their name is very important to us. Care and community. Your collection speaks for itself. And if you want students to feel at ease, I think the best way to go about doing this is to give them voice and choice in the books that are purchased, and then hopefully displayed in your library. So have them put together a display or even run a program in the library. Bring students together by having them play an active role in the space. I was just talking to a few librarians this week and saying you should have an LAC, which is a library advisory committee. So think about maybe even inviting a student onto that library advisory committee. Like, how would they feel being in a space of leadership? So just showing that it's not just a separate space from the classrooms upstairs or around you, but that this is a space of community, and that this is the way that we build community by caring for each other. And then here I have a few books. This is also on the slide So what's all the notes for the slide? So this right here, I have from K to 12 books that I would include in a diverse SEL book selection. So I have this listed. I am going to put links to either the review or to the book. That hasn't been done yet. So when you get to the notes, it won't be linked, but as soon as I get a chance to, I will link all of these for you. One of the books that I have in this list is Lend a Hand. And Lend a Hand is by John Frank and illustrated by London Ladd. This is an engaging and purposeful collection of 13 poems, each in the voice of a child who is doing something helpful. The range of subjects goes from small kindness and grows to larger acts of kindness that can happen in the most opportune times possible. So throughout the entire book, you have 13 different students or 13 different kids doing something that's helpful. The illustrator shows diverse kids and adults, and a note from the author recounts discovering connections between the models he photographed and some of the poem's subjects. I think this is a really great addition, especially because it's poetry. There's some students that a great way to get them ease into an SL collection or to any book is through poetry. A Good Kind of Trouble is a middle grade book, middle grade fiction, and it's about friendship, facing fears, and standing up for what's right. Lisa Moore Ramey writes this funny and big-hearted middle grade novel that's perfect for fans of Angela Thomas's The Hate You Give, and novels by Jason Reynolds and Renee Watson. I think it's important to note who The Hate You Give is geared for. So I see it being taught in some middle schools. And if your students are at the maturity to handle that, that's great. But I think this is a really great book that hits the same topics, but is for a younger audience. So I would definitely consider adding this to my collection. And last, we have Strong as Fire, Fierce as Flame. And in 1857, a 13-year-old Mira escapes a life she has no say in. And the story is wrapped up in her life and her trying to escape. And the idea that we want to know by the end, is she going to help take down the British colonists, or is she going to play it safe and let other people make decisions for her? Another great collection, another great addition to your collection. And I think a really perfect selection if you're trying to diversify what you already have. So thinking about this, let's think about some activities your students could do or are already doing that fit into the description of care and community. Write them in the chat. And I know if you can't, that's fine. If they're not doing these activities already, think about how they might, or think about what they might be doing. So we can always say, oh, my students don't do X, or they don't do whatever it is, but you also have to turn around and say, if they're not doing something, how can I help them get to that point? And some activities that I put, because I was mindful that the chat might not work, is you might want to see your students helping newer classmates find their classes, possibly holding the door open for someone in school, or giving someone a compliment. And I say this not thinking that that's going to happen every single day. I worked in a school. There are just times where people in general are not really aware of their surroundings, and you might forget to do something that's kind, but I think it's something that we can try to cultivate. Again, if the bit.ly doesn't work for you, or the QR code didn't work, you can try this bit.ly. It is case sensitive. And I think while kindness is on short supply in our schools, we can help students build their kindness banks back up. And by doing that, I think we can help them by writing cards, helping other students, and just becoming more thoughtful and self-aware I sometimes have an issue with the word SEL because I think people use it in a way to kind of control students and make them do what you want them to do. And I think for me, SEL is more about making students more self-aware, more empathic, but not having like a certain agenda when I'm doing the SEL practices. How do you build character and kindness in your library? What books do you read to help with this? I put some books up on this slide. I like Lemon Bird just because it's a manga book. So think about adding, or actually it's a graphic novel. Think about adding books that might not fit into what people consider the SEL like category. I know a lot of SEL books can be just this, all about being kind, but I think some of them have to find students where they are. And I know a lot of our students are really into graphic novels. The one in the middle is about a Native American family. And the last one just has really, really great illustrations, and it goes through the kindness from all of these animals. So think about maybe a book that you have, especially for the younger grade, maybe. Think about a book that you have that you always pull out when you want to do some exercises or work on character building and kindness. So being self-reflective is an important part of personal growth. And when students shut down, and even when they, when school shut down or when they reopened, it was very difficult to have students figure out what that new normal was going to be. And I think having them write in journals, having them talk about their highs and lows, putting it into context is helpful. They might not always want to share what they wrote, but at least getting it down on paper is a step in the right direction. This I really like. I worked in the South Bronx, and we had a decent amount of money for our collection. It wasn't a lot. I mean, New York City gives $6 per kid. So it wasn't a lot of money, but we were able to build a really great collection. But students really wanted things that they could take with them. So we had the beginnings of a makerspace. We had places in our library where you could play with puzzles. You could play chess. And I think it's important to, in a school especially, let kids be kids. So maybe during lunch, they can just relax. And if they want to color, they can color. If they want to make something, because they've been sitting for a really long time during the school day, that we give them the opportunity to do so. And one way to do that is to be really low budget and just get or print out some coloring sheets. I added a link for coloring sheets in the note catcher, and it says it's an adult coloring sheet, but I checked, I looked through it. It's just a whole bunch of flowers and images for them to fill out. And I think just starting really, if you have to, low budget, basic, maybe getting some donated chess sets, origami, all you need is paper. So think about that and have the students really get their creativity out. It's enlightening and heartening to see students during lunch or even after school, because maybe they don't have time during lunch, just sitting and having a really good time. And I think especially after being away for so long, they need more time to be together. So writing it out. Journaling can help calm the mind and help students recenter. And you may find that for some students, it's easier for them to put their feelings and thoughts on paper, and easier than just coming to someone and saying it, right? And I think it's important to take advantage of this situation and say, okay, like, you can write it out, or as our previous slide, you can draw it out, like whatever works, I think is helpful. And thinking about where you currently are in your journal, you might also have students begin thinking about where they want to be. So if for some reason they are maybe not happy with the classes they have or their grades or whatever it is, it's really important to have students begin goal setting. Goal setting should help them stay motivated, and it also helps them keep track of their progress. So if you have them journaling and saying, okay, like this week, what's the plan? How are you going to meet that goal? And then being able to look back and say, okay, this is where I was in September. This is how far I've come, because sometimes we don't realize like our own progress. So think about having students journal and goal set. And that's really cheap. I know I mentioned price before, but money's tight in a lot of schools. So thinking about how can I make sure that the kids are all right, but also I have the budget to help them. Journaling and goal setting is a great way to do that. So an example of a journal you could have your students do is think about right now I am, and fill in that blank, and then finish with the sentence, I want to be. So for me, it would be right now I am working the rest of the week and I want to be on vacation. And it's coming soon, so I'm very excited about that. But I think this type of journal or this type of journal prompt helps students think about one, where they are right now, and that goes back to goal setting. It actually combines them, and then saying, okay, so where do I want to be? And then having them work on the steps to get them there. I know even with me saying it, that some will not really listen or agree. So what I've left you with is SEL research. So there are about 4 links that you can go to say, this is why we should have SEL in our spaces. And we have online resources, and one that I want to go to, actually 2, would be the racial equity and inclusion goal setting. And this is not for our students, this is for our schools as a whole. So if you do have an SE, if you do have an LAC, a library advisory committee, I think it's important for your library to think about what your goals are in creating racial equity and inclusion in your school and how you can meet those goals. So we have, I believe it's 2 sheets. And of course, it's going to be adjusted to fit your school, but we're having students do a lot of heavy lifting. And I think it's important for the adults to also put that work in. And the work doesn't stop for me as a librarian with a book list or even coloring pages. Like, it has to continue into something that's for many more formalized, maybe even add it in as a policy into your handbook to say, this is what we do, this is how we do it. That's the one. And then the second one is one of my faves, teaching books. So I can't ask you if you've tried it, but what I can do is, hopefully we all have accounts. But what I like about it, and hopefully we'll be able to show, is it'll have all of the author's books. And I have Tomi up here, Adeyemi, because now we know how to say her name. But when you click on any of the books, it gives you a great deal of resources. And then trying to find the one I really want. And I don't see it. Hold on, let me see. No. All right, if I find what I wanted to show you. Oh, here it is. Perfect. It's the details for the book. So we have one, the genre, then we have the cultural experience, is African American and African, and then you have the grade. I think that's kind of helpful when you're picking books, especially because you're not going to get to see and touch all the books that you want, but if you look them up on teaching books, it's super helpful. So those are the two that I wanted to show. And then thank you. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. I'm dgray19@schools.nysc.gov. And I'm available if you have questions or just want to chat about this. And please check the note catcher. I will add more to it as I go along the school year.
Yes, and you have a little time left. So if anyone from the that's attending would like to ask Donna a question, or if you want her to go back to a certain page, you can do a screen grab. You know, this is a great time for you to ask those questions because we have some time. And I'll just comment and say this, teachingbooks.net has been around for quite some time. And I tell you, when I say that they do an excellent job with providing resources for librarians and classroom teachers, you know, to support lessons taught in the class, just an excellent job. I absolutely love that site. And the gentleman who is the owner of it, his name is Nick Glass. He's been around for quite some time. And he does such a great job with the website. The pronunciations are so helpful. You know, I'm very thankful for them because, of course, when you get in front of kids, you want to make sure that you can pronounce the names correctly, you know. I have a question for you.
Oh, go ahead. I want to hear your question.
She says, Tanya's asking, are you on social media?
Yes, I am on Twitter. Sorry, DN Gray 18. Well, it's not Twitter anymore. What is it called? X now?
Yeah, X. So what we'll do is we'll in this sheet, one pager, we will make available all day tomorrow and for the duration of the conference. We will, I will ask the presenters if they would, you know, include their social media pages and so forth, because it's disabled, I'm afraid to do anything and knock everybody off. So this is how we're going to do it until we get everything corrected. But thank you so much, because social and emotional learning is such a, people think they really understand social emotional learning, and there's still a lot to be learned. And I use it a lot with my students to help them, you know, get through the day and just thrive as students. So thank you for your presentation this evening. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, madam. All right. So we're going to head to our next presenter, and I'm going to hit stop for